Welcome to the immeasurable universe of Star's Reach, where humanity is venturing forth into the galaxy. Explore infinite new worlds full of hope and of danger. Fight fierce alien creatures. Discover mysterious artifacts. Craft your way to galaxy-wide fame and fortune. All in the most alive game ever made.
The best way to describe this game would probably be a modern reimagining of Star Wars Galaxies.
Finally, we have some concrete information about what game MMO industry veteran Raph Koster is making, and for fans of Star Wars Galaxies in particular, it sounds like it might be exactly what we've been waiting for. For those who don't know, Raph Koster was one of the designers behind such MMO sandbox classics as Ultima Online and the aforementioned Star Wars Galaxies. Such games foregrounded player choice and interaction within the game world, but over time trends in MMO gaming shifted towards a more predictable model. Games like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, whilst fun and engaging, don't really satisfy the urge for exploration and freedom that players like myself crave. So when Raph Koster set up his new company, Playable Worlds, dedicated to developing the next generation of sandbox games, there was much excitement, but at the same time, many questions. What might those games look like, and how might they differ and evolve the genre beyond what we've seen before? Star's Reach is Playable Worlds' answer to that question, a science fantasy MMO that leverages new technology to power its detailed physics engine and complex planetary simulations. People know I'm a big fan of Star Wars Galaxies, that's how many people found this channel, so it makes the most sense to me to look at what we know about Star's Reach from that perspective. What systems and what experiences might this new game offer that are familiar to Galaxies players, but crucially, what might it offer that's exciting and new? To facilitate this, I've broken the key points down into an internet-friendly numbered list. Number 1, everyone is welcome. The design of Star's Reach proposes that in order for the game to feel like a real world, there must be room for all kinds of people in it. This is an aspect of MMOs that has largely fallen by the wayside over the years, with homogeneous groups of players being targeted by game makers. Paleo wants socializers, for instance. Mortal Online wants PvPers. World of Warcraft would like people interested in quest content and grouping up for raids. Minecraft, although it's not massive, is perhaps the best example of a game that wants creative players who are driven to build. But a world filled with people who do and want exactly the same thing will always feel artificial. Star's Reach aims to offer things for all types of players to do: PvP and PvE content, crafting, building, questing, everything. It's a bold vision, and the number of games that have ever achieved anything like this are few and far between. Star Wars Galaxies is perhaps one of them, which is why we Galaxies players still wonder to this day, why does nothing feel quite like it? The lack of a diverse player base. That's one of the reasons. Number 2, simulation. The creatures in Star's Reach are intended to behave according to underlying rules. They have goals and to a certain extent an agenda. A predator creature is looking for prey, for instance, and groups of creatures can multiply if left unchecked, leading to areas becoming uninhabitable if players don't band together to enact some sort of population control. Similarly, plants too have an agenda. The goal of a tree is to grow and a forest to spread. This is unusual, particularly for MMOs, where mobs generally wander a set path or around a given area until a player enters aggro range, at which point they attack. A more basic system than this was present in early versions of Star Wars Galaxies, where predator lizards would stalk womp rats or the player. It was one of those things that made the game feel very reactive when you set out from the safety of Mos Eisley into the dangerous desert beyond. It was removed later, perhaps as the design philosophy of the game shifted over time, but to this day it's something I notice every time I jump into one of those pre-CU Galaxies servers. But apparently the attempt to simulate the worlds of Star's Reach doesn't end with the flora and fauna. Number 3, terraforming the landscape, aka Minecraft or the aborted EverQuest landmark, with materials behaving as they should. So rock is strong and holds its shape, while sand makes pretty rubbish building material. Heat it up, however, and it'll turn into glass, so that's your windows sorted. Water flows and things sink or float according to their nature. This is a level of interactivity beyond anything seen in a massively multiplayer game to date. I'll be honest, quite frankly, this level of freedom seems preposterous to me at this stage. Thousands of players given carte blanche to sculpt entire planets to their liking. I believe it when I see it. But that's what I'm liking about these Stars Reach reveals so far. In my opinion, creative people should always shoot for the stars. Even if they don't get there, they're further than the people who played it safe back on Earth. Number 4, a player-driven economy. The holy grail, but also the bane of MMOs since time immemorial. Of all the MMOs I could think of, only really EVE Online seems to have pulled this off, an economy driven by players that functions correctly. You may ask, why does this even matter though? What's the big deal about a game having a robust economy? To me, it seems to be all about purpose. If the things that can be bought or sold are created by players, then that creates jobs. And I know jobs suck, but in games, jobs are the fun activity that we players do. So hunting critters for their skins or meat, mining for minerals, combining those materials together in order to create sellable items, groups of players banding together to attempt a particularly dangerous dungeon because at the bottom there's a rare artifact that when added to a crafting schematic gives +5 damage to weapon blueprints. Many people who are much more intelligent than me also point to the importance of local markets, which Stars Reach is intending to have. Local markets mean there's more opportunity for players to corner a niche, since when everything is available anywhere at any time through a universal bazaar, only a very small number of players can rise to the top. Everyone knows who makes the best stuff and they can get it anytime they wish. However, if you have to travel somewhere or move goods around, again, that presents opportunities for the seller of the items, but also people supplying the wares. Number 5, skill-based characters. Star Wars Galaxies eventually moved to a tried and true level-based system, but the skill-based leveling at the start was a big draw for that original game. One of the core things that made it so unique and was appealing for me. You could pick and choose what you wanted to focus on, and simply through playing the way you wanted, you would level up those relevant skills. Stars Reach is going for the same kind of thing, allowing a lot of freedom in terms of the type of character you want to play, but also crucially, the ability to change your mind. I don't think this is something that factors into our thinking all the time when we think about levels and progression in games, but it ties into the idea of trying to create a believable world again. People don't start out in the real world knowing exactly what they're going to do, what might interest them, certainly not what they might be doing ultimately, their final form, so to speak. Instead, we change and adapt, and our interests shift naturally over time. I'm not the same person I was at age 15. I don't want to be a tennis pro, yet my druid in World of Warcraft can never have doubts about the whole druiding thing. Yes, you can change class, but it's not the same thing. It's not as organic. The puzzle of crafting your character becomes a minigame in itself as you go along. Not one for everyone, I'm sure, and I imagine there will be canned skill setups for those who wish to follow a specific path that is proven to work, but personally I'm rather excited to tinker with Stars Reach's skills and see what sorts of characters we can create. The flaws with such a system, those are well known, they're hard to balance and they can lead to exploits, but I'd rather that than yet another level grind. Perhaps I shouldn't be, but I'm actually quite shocked how closely Stars Reach, from what we know so far, follows the design of Raph Koster's previous games. Mr. Koster often speaks broadly and at a very high level about games and the nature of MMOs in general. So because of that, I was half expecting playable worlds to come out with some kind of imagination space where players dream up experiences for one another that they sell through a metaspatial bazaar, something crazy like that. Stars Reach to me seems far more grounded, and to be honest, many of the goals of early MMORPGs are lofty enough already. A realistic alternate world, let's start there. That seems to be the focus of Stars Reach, and as I say, for Star Wars Galaxies players in particular, I think it's one worth watching. I intend to catch up on the progress occasionally. I've put my name down for the early alpha. You can also do that on the Stars Reach website right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the game develops. Now we know we've got a name and we know what is coming from playable worlds. I know the graphics are pretty basic right now, it's pre-alpha footage, but you can see the DNA, right? Those third-person characters, sci-fi setting, running across these massive sprawling planets with the mobs in the background. it's Star Wars Galaxies. It's Star Wars Galaxies 2. I know the lack of the Star Wars license will be an issue for those players who love Star Wars Galaxies, but honestly, there are so many Star Wars games out there. The thing that made Star Wars Galaxies unique and that kept people playing was not the Star Wars license, it was the underlying idea of living in an alternate world. In a sense, it's not the Star Wars that is special in Galaxies, it's the galaxy and the freedom you had within it. That's my opinion anyway, but I'm always open to being wrong. In fact, I am quite often wrong. So what do you think of Star's Reach, what you've seen or heard of it so far? Is Raph Koster onto something or barking up the wrong artificially aware tree? Let me know in the comments. I've been Napier and I'll see you next time.